Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I am here with the ninth show, and I am here with Krista Moroder. Did I say your name correctly?
Yeah, you did first.
Excellent. I was just saying to myself, I should have asked you for a Stoshar because I didn't want to mess it up
Nope, that was really good. It's
while
pronounced
we're all live.
Oder, so unfortunately that's not hard to miss.
Excellent, excellent. So here we are. We'll be talking about the professional direction of the instructional technologist. Now, for anyone who's watching this video and they're like, Krista, who is this person? I don't know who this person is. Well, Krista, who is Krista Moroder?
All right. My background is I started out as an English and video production teacher at a high school in sort of a rural area of Wisconsin. And while I was there, taught 6 classes, tried to go blended, project-based, realized I was overusing technology, then underusing technology, and then just gave up on all of it and tried to focus more on building good lessons for kids. And I learned a lot of good lessons myself in that process. Started a TV station for my kids, and that's kind of when things really made sense to me. Moved from that into a instructional technologist role at a school district in southern Wisconsin, and then recently to California to work for a nonprofit called Digital Promise. Worked for a few months on their teacher badges program, and now I'm in a role as a professional development manager. So still working with teachers and hopefully sharing some of the lessons I learned and learning a lot from them as well.
Awesome, awesome. And see, which is great because in your intro, you talked about your sort of transitions and how you have sort of grown in the role of being an instructional technologist in your journey. So for me, and the reason this sort of popped into me, and I was on Twitter, and I was talking about this, and I think his name was Ryan Tagg or something. I think it's his Twitter name. He was like, he tells his people, like, look, focus on some small stuff, some concepts of, okay, this is what I do, and sort of build around that. And I said, well, this is a blog post. And then I said, well, let's make this a podcast and work around that way. Because for me, I'm just one of those people, I like things to kind of gel and make sense in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm on Twitter and I see all these people, I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, I'm a Google Certified Teacher, I'm a Microsoft Innovative Educator, and hey, these are the 50th greatest apps in the world, and blah, blah, blah. So everyone has a different focus and niche that they follow. And you mentioned how you kind of stepped back and focused on the lessons, the learning, and then sort of tech kind of came with that later. What was your process like for, I guess, sort of defining who you are as an instructional technologist, and what would you say what would you say who you are as an instructional technologist?
Yeah. So for me, I guess, yeah, I started a lot with trying to figure out different apps and basically diving into Google and everything else. And one of the struggles I found was that I was using technology in a lot of ways that weren't effective. And so there's a couple anecdotes I can give, but one, for example, was having all my kids go step by step through a lesson on the computer and watching them get bored out of their minds, because really it was the same as just digitizing worksheets, and there was no bigger idea, it wasn't meaningful, and it wasn't engaging in any way. And then another one would be having my students curate resources in something like, there's an app called Glogster, and they were curating resources of that, and then 2 days later they were basically playing with animated mustaches and not actually getting any work done, and so again, not effective. And so it was taking a step back and ignoring technology completely and saying, what am I trying to get them to learn? What's the best way that I can get them there? And with that, technology was helpful because it would automate some things, it would organize it digitally, I could have my students collaborate, I could give feedback faster, there was publishing to an audience, so there were certain pieces, but at the end of the day, it was, just something else. So it could have been a pencil, it could have been a laptop, but was the bigger piece there? Were the kids actually learning something, and were they engaged? So transitioning those lessons to trying to help teachers use technology, I realized it was really about three major things. The first one was having them be comfortable with the fact that they were going to have to try something new and they'd probably fail a lot of times, and like me, they'd have to go through these lessons. So with that, I realized that sharing my own stories made it a lot easier for them to relate, because I shared my big failures and then they were comfortable with the fact that they might also fail. The second one was focusing on as clear messaging as possible. And so with that, it was, are your students doing meaningful work? And then, can you be more efficient? Can you be more effective? And if you are, do it. If not, don't do it. And so that was kind of an easier way to, I guess, frame, the strategy that I was trying to get across. And then the third one was, instead of myself giving presentations, trying to set up leadership roles for the teachers, because every teacher has something really, really good to teach. And if I could help create those leadership opportunities for them, or social opportunities, they were more likely to work together to figure things out, because myself, I can't get to 200 teachers, and I definitely don't have, expertise or social studies expertise. They do, so they'll be able to figure it out faster. So that was a lot really fast, but I guess it was being comfortable with failure, clear messaging, and then helping them set up their own professional learning networks.
No, that was great. That was great. Because for me, and some people, because you hear a lot of times people go, well, it's not about the tools, it's not about the tools, it's not about tech, it's not about tech. And for me, in some ways, I go, they don't know what they're doing. You got to do it. But for me, from having that conversation on Twitter, I sort of said, okay, I like projects. I'm really into projects. I like blended learning. Definitely into flipping and some online stuff. And from there, I said, okay, these are some of the tools that I know I can work with that will sort of help me accomplish that. And that's where I have been sort of on my journey, kind of figuring out, okay, this is my, direction. So, I mean, I am applying for the Google Teacher Academy because I am a Google person, basically because of what it allows you to do with the docs and everything, with collaboration, being able to connect and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I am a fan of Google in general because Google man. But it's more so about, I guess, the connecting and all of that stuff. But when you have people who are new to the field, and you get into the field, and you're just so bombarded with just a whole bunch of stuff, and then you get on Twitter, and then everybody's like, "Hey, boom, boom,
Yeah.
1-to-1 iPads, boom. What about this?" Now you're like, "Woo, okay, this is a lot of stuff." Well, how do I make sense of this? What am I supposed to do? How do I digest? What am I supposed to do with it in my job? What do you say?
I think we suffer from a serious overabundance of jargon. Even words like flipping. I mean, honestly, flipping has become this thing with, math teachers, videos at home, talk about it in class. English teachers have been doing this forever. You go home, you read the work, you come in, and then you talk about it. So it's cutting through, and like blended or one-to-one or project-based learning, experiential learning, challenge-based learning. There's so many different rebranding of everything we're doing that I think it's confusing to people, and it actually almost pushes people away from it. It secludes them. And I just remember there was one teacher I used to work with who used to say, "Oh, it's the pendulum swinging to another side." And honestly, I completely related to that, because it's just another word for what we're trying to have kids do, which is meaningful work that's engaging, that teaches them real life skills. And I guess one of the things I tried to focus on after I got into my job was less learning about technology, but more learning about education philosophy and research, and then trying to make my own connections to it. But it's a made-up job. It's a new job, and so there's really no direction. It's hard. I don't know. What about you? Where did you start your focus, I guess? Was it with technology? Was it research? I mean, you have a PhD right now, right?
An EDD.
An EDD. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is that in?
Educational leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And my focus was basically on, let's say, digital sort of leadership, how you can use social media, digital media to transform an organization, and as well, because I wrote my dissertation on teachers using a Twitter-supported personal learning network to individualize their professional development.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you. So I was really big into that sort of development issue of, which is why Twitter is just my thing. And then I got this job, and the first thing was because of my experience with Google. That was that was just the first things that I did. And then I came back in the fall, and it was like, okay, boom, I'm doing Mac training now. I'm doing Compass Learning training. I'm doing Active Inspire training. And with all of this stuff, it's like, okay, I need a focus. I don't want to, I can't just be with all these tools to, okay. Like, hey, I need a focus, a direction of what I'm going to be doing with these teachers, so there can be not only consistency, but I want to feel comfortable, so they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And
no, that totally makes sense.
And so that was sort of where I am.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you hit on it right there when you're saying that the whole idea of Twitter to build a professional learning network. I mean, that's really all it seems that instructional technologists eventually do is, I mean, we're trying to help teachers use technology, but the teachers who don't need help are the ones who already have a really good professional learning network because they're already talking to people, they're already making those connections and collaborating and are in those leadership roles. So if we can do what you were saying, help them build that social network through Twitter or some other tool, we're kind of empowering them to, I guess, learn on their own as well.
Yeah, I like it. So with the people, with this information overload and all of this stuff coming through Twitter, and then you're saying we're rehashing some old stuff, like some stuff people talk about, some of the 21st century stuff, and I go, man, that's just Dewey. When someone is looking for that sort of clarification, because I'm still sort of working on mine, I want to get mine down to like 3 sentences so I can say, okay, boom, this is me. When someone is trying to take all of that information, they're trying to take everything they're being fed, and maybe trying to find that singular message or where they want to go, how do they cut through that information? Because, I mean, what do you do? Because, I mean, you're on Twitter as well.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I was going to say, this sounds great. If you figure it out, let me know.
Well, I haven't. I mean, that's my, that's my thing. Like, some people are just so, self-assured. I find it amazing. They get on Twitter, and when you look at their feed, there is a consistent theme. Like if man, I want those Apple apps, and I want to know how to work with those iPads and those MacBooks. I know, okay, these 5 to 10 people, I'm going to get that stuff because that's what they do. That's what they focus on. And I have my Google folks that I'm like, these are my gurus. This is where I'm going to. And so my thing is about cutting through the clutter, finding your thing. This is where you're going to be. This is what you're going to do. And I'm just trying to figure it out.
Well, I guess it's figuring out your own personal brand. I don't know. I don't have mine figured out yet, but once I do, I'll let you know.
You can never get away from branding. I just talked about that on my last show, but you can never get out of that. So in your work with Digital Promise, and you're working with teachers, when you say you focus on sort of the lessons and the learning and that, are there a particular set of tools that you are in your toolkit that you heavily rely on, or do you look at each case uh, differently?
Ideally, the goal would be to look at each case differently, but I think there's a lot of teachers who need more scaffolding than that, and need, I mean, no teacher has the ability to look through every single app. I mean, it's overwhelming. There's too much going on. I do really like a lot of the products in the Google App Suite just because collaboration is one of those first things that makes things easier. As far as giving kids access to their work 24/7, having faster feedback on work. So I usually focus on those. But I'd say my biggest goal lately has been less about specific apps for their classroom, but more about helping them create their own professional learning network, whether it's through Google Plus or Twitter, or even with a teacher within their building. When I was a teacher, it was very secluded. I shut my door a lot. I didn't talk to a lot of people. And when I did talk to other people, I was way better because they were helping me. And so just having that collaboration, I think, is more important than anything else that we're doing, and helping them make those connections. So I'd say that more than anything else is the first thing I try to focus on now.
Mm, mm. That is all right. That is all right. Well, I hope you had a good time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it, because for me, when I've been following you on Twitter and I checked out your bio and looking, I say, oh, she's doing some things. I want to bring her on to check out the perspective, because essentially you're doing what we're doing, but you're outside of the scope of the school system. And I was thinking, okay, she has it down packed. Let's bring her on.
I'm very recently out of a school district, and I'm still working with school districts. But yes.
Get her in. Because we're about to go really Google in a big way in our middle school, because we are going one-to-one with Chromebooks. And we'll be using Schoology as the learning management system.
Awesome.
So definitely excited about that, and I want to really bring in, in the stuff and everything. So I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited. I just need to stop, I guess, overthinking some stuff, and then just go, oh, we're doing. Now, before we leave, do you have any parting words or tips for anyone who is sort of kind of trying to figure this thing out?
I guess I'd say the best things that happened is when I connected with other people and learned from them. And I mean, that's true in every aspect of my life. When I'm younger, it was trying to connect with people who were in jobs that I wanted to have or didn't have. And so, yeah, Twitter's pretty great for that. If you would like to learn more, read Dr. Will's dissertation, and I'm sure you'll pick up some tips.
All right, people, let's read chapter 4.
Excellent.
That's a long read, my friend, so but I appreciate you plugging it.
No problem.
And we'll be reading your dissertation in a few years, too. Yours is coming. But again, thank you very much for your time. Are you going to ISTE this year?
Yep, I am, and we're doing another EdTech Chef competition, so if anyone wants to get involved, it's going to be a ton of fun.
What is the EdTech Chef thing?
Yeah, we started that last year, and it was basically people showed up, and we gave them secret ingredients, and they had to cook something together, so it was basically a giant metaphor, but 2 days later, the people who came presented, and there was a big competition in judging. So if you'd like to do something other than sit there and you want to get involved and you want to present, come join our competition. And we'll post about it later, but it'll be at edtechchef.com.
Excellent. I will be going to ISTE for the first time this year.
Awesome. It's a lot of fun. Everybody who's involved in all these things are often there, and it's overwhelming.
Wow. So I'm excited. I may check. I may try to do the Ed Chef thingy. It sounds interesting. and may see how that works out for myself. So again, thank you very much for coming, Krista. Thank you, people, for viewing another episode of the Dr. Will Show, and I hope to see you again.